So, what if you could teach an AI your company's exact workflow? I don't mean just with a long prompt, but by actually giving it an onboarding guide just like a new employee. Well, that's the genuinely clever idea behind a new feature from Anthropic called Claude Skills. And today, we're going to break down exactly how it works.
Look, we all know models like Claude are these incredibly powerful generalists, right? But the real challenge, the one we've all been bumping up against, is getting them to understand the specific, kind of quirky, and totally unique ways that we work. How do you teach it your company's brand guidelines or a very particular coding workflow? That's the problem we're talking about today.
Anthropic has a really great way of framing this whole challenge. They call it the agent onboarding problem.
And this quote right here is the core idea. I mean, think about it. When a new person joins your team, you don't just throw them in the deep end and expect them to know everything. Of course not. You give them an onboarding guide, documentation, access to internal resources. You teach them your specific way of doing things. Anthropic's argument is that AI agents need the exact same treatment.
So what's their answer to this whole onboarding problem? It's something that is so elegantly simple and powerful, and they just call them skills.
At its heart, a skill is really just a folder. That's it. And inside that folder, you've got your instructions, maybe some code scripts, and other resources that basically act as a how-to guide for the AI. So when Claude needs to do something specific, it just knows to look up and use the right skill from its library.
Okay, so how does this actually work in practice without just flooding the AI with way too much information? Well, this is where the design gets really, really clever.
The entire system is built on this key principle called progressive disclosure. The whole idea is to give Claude just enough information at each step and only reveal more of the nitty-gritty details when it's absolutely necessary.
It all breaks down into 3 simple levels. First, Claude just gets a tiny description of every skill available. Think of it like a table of contents for its abilities. Now, if your request matches one of those descriptions, it moves to step 2 and reads the main instruction file. That's like the actual chapter. And only if it needs even more detail will it dive into the deep reference files. That's the appendix.
Let's make this real with an example. Say you have a skill for handling PDFs. The main file gives Claude the basics. But if you specifically ask it to fill out a form within that PDF, it knows, aha, I need to read this separate file called forms.md to get the specific instructions for that one task.
So why is this so important? What's the big deal? Well, it is all about being token efficient. And AI's context window, its short-term memory, is an incredibly precious and limited resource. This progressive disclosure method means you can give Claude access to hundreds of skills, but they only take up a tiny, tiny sliver of that memory until the exact moment they're actually needed. It's a game changer.
All right, so to really appreciate just how elegant this solution is, it helps to kind of compare it to what people were trying before.
The most obvious comparison is something called the Model Context Protocol, or MCP. And honestly, the difference is night and day. Skills are just simple text files. MCP is a complex, full-blown protocol. And the token cost? Wow, skills use maybe a few dozen tokens for that first-level metadata, while a single MCP integration could famously gobble up tens of thousands of tokens. And as technologist Simon Willison points out, this huge token cost became a major roadblock for MCP. It just left very little room for the AI to actually think and do its work. Skills are a direct and really effective answer to that exact problem.
Okay, so we've covered the what and the why. Now let's get to the really exciting part. What does this actually unlock? What kind of specialized AI agent can you build with this approach?
The potential here is, to borrow Simon Willison's words again, somewhat dizzying. Because the barrier to creating a new capability for the AI is now so incredibly low, you can start combining these simple skills in some really fascinating ways.
I mean, check out his example of a data journalism agent. You don't have to write one giant monolithic program. No. Instead, you just put together a folder of simple skills. One skill teaches Claude where to find census data. Another teaches it how to load that data into a specific database. And a third, maybe written by an experienced journalist, gives it tips on how to find interesting stories hidden in the numbers. Just like that, you've built a highly specialized expert by combining a few simple text files.
And this isn't just a theory. If you look at the official skills repository on GitHub right now, you can see the huge range of possibilities. There are skills for creative tasks like making GIFs, super technical stuff like testing web apps, and really crucial enterprise workflows like applying brand guidelines or writing internal reports.
And all of this brings us to the final and I think the most important point. The real innovation here isn't about adding some crazy new layer of complexity, it's actually about a radical commitment to simplicity. As Willison puts it, the simplicity is the point. That's it. Unlike complex protocols, skills feel so much closer to the whole spirit of large language models. You just give it some text and you let the model figure it out. It outsources all the hard parts to the AI itself.
And because creating a new skill is basically as easy as writing a simple text document, it means almost anyone can create and share them. And this could lead to a massive, community-driven Cambrian explosion of new, specialized AI capabilities happening way faster than any single company could ever build them.
Which brings us to our final thought, and this one's a question for you. Now that you see how simple it can be to teach an AI a new trick, to give it your own personal knowledge or your company's workflow, what's the first skill you're going to build? Thanks for tuning in.